I find that to encourage myself daily affirmation. It's actually here. You can just bring your own. You want to ask your teacher to start the reading? Is where people reading for this book on road number 2.com. That is ROAD number 2 RESILIENT.com. Also follow me on Instagram. And I also have a podcast. Thursday at 7 a.m. every time on this podcast where I go through the journey of how to Yvonne, you wanna enjoy your ice cream here. Let's start in 30 minutes.
John.
Everybody was asking.
Oh, okay. Come here. Wait, chair, Mr. Pineda.
Of course.
Tour. Tell me when to start.
I got it. Got it. Yeah, it is. So I'll give you her. Yeah, but like definitely. Come back. I'll give you her postcard.
Maybe, I don't know, my dog is kasi yung anak ko, but she wants to have a child. Oh, you like it before?
Of course, it's gonna be live. So it's there.
Oh, so I'll just go on there.
Go on the webpage. Sorry, Facebook page.
ReadersMagnet.
So after her is Louise. So Louise. Hello everyone.
Hi.
So good afternoon, fairgoers, authors, and friends alike. My name is John, and I'm just gonna start this afternoon's event with with some inspirational words because it's been it's been a great day. It's been a great day and a half for all of us here at the Los Angeles Festival of Books, and it doesn't stop there because there's still a slew of authors coming on stage, being live, and making sure that their stories are heard. Um, this afternoon's event is going to be kicked off with one of our friend and one of our great authors of this great children's book. Her book uh, is really inspired by her being a grandmother. Okay, she doesn't look like a grandmother by all means, but wow, it's such a wonderful blessing that she's with us. She's been with us for quite some time now, and we first met here at the Festival of Books, and now we're working together at the Festival of Books just to make sure that not only her book but also her workbook will will be known. So, without further ado, I would like to introduce the author of Dragon and Rat Tales, the Dragon and Rat Tale, Donabel Pineda. A round of applause, please.
Oh, thank you everybody for being here and for listening to my segment. I just want to, can you hear me? I just want to share this book with everybody, and it's a bedtime story book. Again, inspired by my four grandchildren, four for now, and um, there is also a moral lesson on here, and I'll share my favorite part, which is the, let's see, okay, I'm trying to find that page. I'm so sorry. Okay, so anyway, it's a part where the prince transformed into a dragon, and the reason for that is for all the circumstance that's happening in our lives, that not only um, men, even women change when we go through some um, some again when things happen in our lives, we change, and so that's what this book is about, and that um, we're going to find our way back to our original self when we learn our lessons in life. And also, this book comes with a workbook where it's like a mini book report for children after they read the book, and they can answer some questions on the activity book. So it's kind of training their minds to comprehend what they're reading, and also have some activities for fun. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Can you read some parts of the book?
Oh, oh, you guys can get this from Amazon and also Barnes and Noble and website as well. Just Google it online.
Yeah, maybe Donovan can do some reading.
Oh,
The Dragon and the Rat Tail.
oh, okay, sure. Let me see. Where is that for? I'm sorry. Um, okay, so let's just read the first part here that I could find. Um, okay. The dragon then spoke to Rat and said, "Oh, they're gone." Huh? Who said that? Asked the rat in bewilderment. "It is I speaking with you, dragon," the dragon said to the scared but victorious rat. "You are safe now, my friend." She looked up and saw Dragon's large fangs and mouth resembling a cave. She then became frightened, and she thought the dragon was going to harm her. Instead, she stayed calm and said to Dragon, "Oh, well, I thank you, kind dragon." And that was the beginning of their friendship. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, Donovan Pineda, Dragon and Rat Tail. Our next speaker was born in Cuba in 1957, and he is a retired law enforcement officer who uses his experiences of dealing with good, the bad, and the ugly to create stories that are not far different from real life. To tell us more about the little Ricky, let's listen to the author, Louis Sainz. A round of applause.
Well, I think a little bit better, right? Okay, my name is Louis Sciency, and this is Little Ricky. This is the product, actually, of a very interesting story. Like I said, I'm a retired police officer. Before that, I was a correctional officer. So I deal with a lot of characters, very interesting characters. And one thing I learned through my career is that actually they're not bad people and good people. They're bad actions and good actions taken by people. So in every one of them, we could find good, bad, and ugly. And this is the case where two families from different backgrounds they actually blame each other for their failures. Then they focus on their difference and ended up when Ricky goes into their life out of for them nowhere, which is not that's not the case because Ricky is the product of a wild night that the father had and forgot about it, and he's brought to their family when Ricky's mother died and he's been left alone. So Ricky is a super smart on the he has autism, but on the Asperger's side, super intelligent. He has no filter. He say the way it is, the way he sees it, and create one problem after another on both family. But thanks to Ricky and his brilliant occurrences, he makes both family get together at the end. Um, this is a very fun book, and you can find it everywhere. Bars and novels, um, on Amazon, Walmart, and a lot of other places that it's been put in. That's it about Ricky. I hope you like it, enjoy it. I'm sure I have friends that read it and they just told me they just can't put it back once they start reading because it's one crazy after another from this little guy. And they told me, I didn't know you were a writer. I said, neither do I. I just have fun when I write. Thank you.
Yeah, do you have questions?
Actually, yes. This, if I tell you, this one comes from a dream that I had many years ago. Somebody brought me a kid out of nowhere. They said it's mine, and I was saying it's not mine. I'm sure that it's not mine, but well, it was a beautiful kid, very intelligent, and I got stuck with it. And obviously, it was mine because about 25 years later, there he is. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Once again, Louis Sainsey,
You're
the
welcome.
author of the book The Little Ricky.
Thank you.
Our next author is a regular author of Reader's Magnet. We were together in New York last November on the very first book confab in Tribeca, in which we're going to be doing another one in San Francisco this coming weekend. This is going to be our Golden State book tour, book confab. It's more like this, but bigger in San Francisco, and everyone is invited to go. To read us some poems in her book, Beneath the Mask, let's welcome the two-time Emmy nominated Bryn Leach. A round of applause.
Hi, I'm Bryn Elizabeth Leach, the author of Beneath the Mask. I'm going to give you a quick summarization of what it is. I think it's quite clear by the title. This is a time capsule. This is a self-help book and a history book about the year 2020. I am an artist, and it's from an artist's perspective. It will give you optimism and hope about everything that broke, so to speak, during the pandemic. And I'd like to read to you a few poems today. May 2020, Black Lives Matter. Black history is not just a chapter of our historical American past. Black history is at the very heart of it all, inseparable and connected to last. It tears me up inside to see the pain on your face, as this issue is hugely immense. Everywhere across our nation, racial injustice becomes more intense. Black lives do matter without a doubt. I believe this in every way. We all have strengths and weaknesses with a past that needs healing today. The fear of history repeating itself scares me as much as you. But look at how far we have come and look at what we've come through. Equality takes two sides to relinquish our points of view. That compromise and forgiveness is all there is left to do. When you put two hearts together, they should begin to beat as one. Black or white, it does not matter, but the past can't be undone. This isn't the end. We have a long way to go, making tremendous strides along the way. We are a team and we will work together in hopes racial injustice starts to fade away. So it's up to us to figure this out and to settle our differences now. Let this pandemic be a reminder that together we're invincible somehow. Thank you. This was during the riots and the protests and the fires, and it was June 11th, 2020, when I wrote Time to Unite. As we unfold the truth of our behavior these days, I believe that it's hit us in a way that hopefully stays. It's time to reunite, stand as one once again. After all, this is America. This is where our rights begin. People come from everywhere to see what we create, an atmosphere that's peaceful, not full of crime and hate. Remember our goal and the strength of our foundation, what we have struggled with for centuries across our beloved nation. The emptiness that has filled us now is no friend to anyone. We will not stand divided. We will finally stand as one. So use your voice and ignite your power. Use your constitutional right. This hasn't been our finest hour, but it is our greatest fight. Our anger got the best of us. Some restraint is needed now to settle our differences and unite again somehow. Our country stands for freedom. Let's not stand for anything else. We will show it to the world and we will prove it to ourselves that we are the kind of people who hold integrity so high, and we can overcome this while God is standing by. Thank you.
Want one more?
Okay.
We want one more.
One more. Okay, 81. I'm almost there. There we are. Okay. I'm going to take a sip of water. Oh, thank you. Yeah. Okay, I hope you all know who John Lewis is. This is Remembering John Lewis, July 17th, 2020. On New Year's Eve, there was a dinner party put on by a mischievous friend. When John showed up, no one was there except Lillian, who stayed till the end. And 43 years later, through wedded bliss every day, without a proper proposal, vows were exchanged anyway. At the youthful age of 20, John's example began to make a difference. So closely aligned with our highest ideals, so began his life of experience. We learned that Lillian hated politics, yet supported John the entire way as he carved out his niche in America, becoming a founding father along the way. He would be quiet for the majesty of the moment, just for his own mental space. But when John had a cause, he would fight till the end. As an activist, this was his place. We owe this man a tremendous debt, a humanitarian personified, a freedom fighter, and a living saint. Neither one can be denied. He had unbreakable perseverance, which is why at the age 25, he led the march across the Selma Bridge, allowing voters' rights to survive. He was the conscience of the Congress. He lived a righteous and humble life. And yet the troops came in and fractured his skull, causing nothing but turmoil and strife. John was struck down, but he was not destroyed. This gentle soul pulled us closer to his promise. We revered him and we called him a hero. We had no idea the greatness that was upon us. We were born with specific instructions to form a more perfect union. Well, John did just that simply by passing an act giving people a newfound reunion. And we can only hope that their son, John Miles, will get into some kind of good trouble, inject empathy into our troubled nation, and act as his father's double. And just before John was led to the light, as this unprecedented time has unfurled, a group of young activists stood up for their rights and thrilled John right out of this world. Thank you. You can find me on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and next month I will be on Audible as well. Enjoy the festival, everybody. Thank you.
Once again, Bryn Leach, everyone. Our next speaker is scheduled to do her book signing in the next few minutes. But before that, we're so excited to hear what inspired her to writing the story. Susan Weinbrenner is an educator, a widely published author, a public speaker, a parent, and a grandparent. She has worked with school teachers, administrators, and parents in almost every state in the United States, as well as in Canada, Mexico, and Australia. Her books have helped teachers and parents do whatever is necessary to make sure their kids make at least 1 year's academic progress for every year they are in school. The methods she shares are totally practical, easy to implement, and well received by the target students. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker is the author of the book All About Words, Spectacular Sentences. I give you Susan Weinbrenner. A round of applause.
Thank you. What a beautiful campus this is. I'm just blown away. How pretty and how inspirational. This is my fifth or sixth or seventh book, I'm not sure. And usually I write for teachers and parents because I believe that all students can learn if learn is defined as forward progress from the entry level. All these tests for all these administrators and all these publishers do not achieve that. And only achieves glory for the system. You all know that there are kids who are failing in school who are not less than perfectly intelligent, but they have the unfortunate experience of being taught in a way that's different than their brain processes. So maybe you can do this with me. Fold your hands, please. Notice which thumb is on top. You always fold your hands this way. And if I said fold them the other way, you would feel them. So refold them so the other thumb or hand is on top. Whew. Feels terrible, right? So when you have an active learner who is imprisoned in a classroom where the teacher's message is sit still, we have an uncomfortable place to expect learning. So I have a slew of books because my writing has been focusing on kids at both ends of the continuum. When a teacher gets a classroom, I don't care what that classroom is, there's a range of ability that is personified by the bell curve. Raise your hand if you've heard of the infamous bell curve. So the kids in the middle are fine because they were ready for that class and ready for that level, and they are happy, maybe even a little bored. The kids at the top right are what we have called gifted for centuries, and we've got to stop that. Gifted is an insult. Ask any parent, what are your child's gifts? And they will tell you. But the school doesn't care. They're just trying to get them to score high on the standardized tests. And so my books, which are on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, are full of strategies for teachers, parents, and tutors, anybody who wants to make things positive for this kid. And they work just magnificently. I have recently put uh, 12 videos on my website, susanweinbrenner.com, and I demonstrate what these best practices are for teachers or parents to watch. And I try to touch all kinds of students with my strategy. Kids who are flying high and kids who are looking for the way out. And I am absolutely convinced that with some brainstorming among teachers and other adults, we can do this, but the politics won't let us. So if you are going to try to find strategies for the kid that you know has a spark in him or her, you're going to find your inspiration and the answers you're looking for in any book that has my name on it. I've written first a book on how to teach gifted or advanced learners because they are completely misunderstood. The teacher's regular intervention is extra credit. Well, how is that going to work? Kid's got credit to burn. He's bored. He needs to go on an advanced level. And he is just browbeaten into doing his or her work. If we were allowing them to do his or her work, we wouldn't have the problems. So I'm guaranteeing you that if you take a child who you're teaching or parenting and try some of these strategies that are in this book, these books, you're going to be pleasantly surprised. So, in spelling, for example, or vocabulary development, there's one way to teach it, and it's by talking. You talk and you talk and you talk and you talk, and you notice 4.5 kids have already gone to sleep, and you have no idea what to do with them. And some of them have been planning trouble all the while. And as soon as they disengage, the trouble's going to happen. We blame the victim for the supposed inability to learn. And I am just delightfully happy that my publishers have allowed me to collect these strategies together and give parents and teachers real strategies and good tools that I can prove work. So think of the kid who is driving everybody crazy and ask yourself, what can I do to engage her? What can I do to make her happy she came to school today? And what can I do for her to help her get a decent grade on this work? So that's all of my work. Teaching gifted kids in today's classroom, teaching kids with learning difficulties in today's classroom, teaching the twice exceptional learner. Do you even know what that is? Have you met a kid who has some traits of advanced learning, but holy cow, when he tries to do math, he just falls apart? That's activity in both sides of this exceptional brain. Gifted or advanced in some areas and completely in, unable to be engaged in others. Pardon me. So I'm inviting you to share my videos. They're on YouTube and on my website, susanweinberger.com. And I'm inviting you to say to a kid who's just had nothing but failure, I know what school has been like for you, but I can guarantee if you let me show you something I know will work, you'll discover it's not your fault. It's the system's fault. Yes.
Do you have workbooks that reflect the actual book that you have that actually engage with the students?
The books are advice books for people who want to make life different for this kid. And they've been in print since 1963. And they are continuing in print. So I don't have what you're talking about, but you can combine any of my strategy with any material at all because learning is learning is learning. Okay? Okay.
Thank you so much, Susan Weinbrenner. She's scheduled to do her book signing right now, so you can grab a copy of her book. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is a vibrant, innovative example of an individual walking in their greatness. Born in Houston, Texas, Jacoby is a proud graduate of Texas Southern University, where he studied biology and chemistry. His book, Walk on Water: Fear versus Greatness. Fear isn't a driver's seat and is complete control over the wheel of our lives. We are just passengers. To tell us more about Walk on Water, ladies and gentlemen, Jacoby Bearfield.
Thank you. Really quick, my name is Jacoby Barfield. Um, I was birthed this book behind, as Mr. James may say, I was once a youth pastor. And so I discovered with pastoring the kids from ages 5 to 17 that I wanted to install more faith in them than fear. I wanted them to know that God has created them in His image and in His likeness. And so, for therefore, they can do anything that they could possibly do or think of because God has given them that talent. God has given them that gift. And so, for that being birth, I found out that the parents were living more in fear than the kids was. And so, I, I went on having conversations with parents, friends, family, and I noticed everybody around me was living more in fear than having faith. So, Walk on Water had birth from daily conversations, and God had began to birth that, and I procrastinated for so many years, for about 3, 4 years, and then I was able to get that urge to write, and I began to write. And I thought about one of the sections in the book where I talk about please do not miss your green lights. A lot of times in life, when there are opportunities for us to go to higher dimensions and higher elevations, we miss our green light because we are fearful for what the next dimension may look like. So I'll talk about that. And again, it's Walk on Water. You can find it on Amazon. You can find it also on my website at last name Barfield, BAREFID.com. Thank you. Any questions? Not.
Where are you from?
Thank you. I'm from Houston, Texas.
Oh, Houston. Okay.
Houston, Texas.
Did that area inspire this writing, or?
Yes, from church, from coworkers to family to relatives, you know, all that inspired me to write Walk on Water because I believe in, I know in my heart that we are not supposed to, we are called to greatness. We are all called to greatness, and sometimes we have a mind frame of mediocrity. And so when we are called to greatness, why are we living the mediocrity lifestyle?
Yeah.
So
No, that's
that's where it
great.
came from. Yes, ma'am.
You said that you get the parents together, and a lot of times they're instilling their fear onto the kids.
Yes.
So do you have like conferences? What do you have to bring them all together to share?
So at the time when I used to have the Bible study with the kids, and then afterwards, I'll just, they come to keep their child, I will talk to them individually, like, hey, we'll just have one-on-one session, 2, 3 minutes, and that began to work as well, because a lot of them have begun to to branch out from the comfortable to the uncomfortable. So, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Walk, Walk on Water by Jacoby Bearfield. Thank you so much. Our next speaker just had a very successful book signing earlier today. The day 2 of the Los Angeles Times Festival of Books. Again, Readers Magnet is live on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook right now. Just log on to your Facebook account, YouTube, and Twitter, and share the Readers Magnet channel so everyone, all of your friends and family can watch us live. Our next speaker has been a Christian youth instructor in his church for more than 20 years. In that time, he has had many wonderful conversations with students from ages 7 to 80 plus years old, with common themes of biblical stories of good and evil and what happens after we die. He and his wife, Tara, have been children and numerous grandchildren. He currently resides in Utah, but has previously lived in Texas and Alberta, Canada. To talk about his book, Glimpse, let's listen to the story and the inspiration of why he wrote the book from the author himself, Carson Boss.
Hello, my fellow bookies. Um, my name is Carson Boss, author of the book Glimpse. Glimpse has been a long time in the making. As he mentioned, I've been a Christian youth and adult Sunday school teacher for 20 years. So, and it seemed like when we would get to biblical stories of good versus evil, the next life, what happens after we die, it really captured my students' attentions. So the stories of Lazarus and the stories of Christ and his resurrection. So Glimpse is just a story of some college-age kids at the University of Maryland. They've been given the gift of the Spirit of being able to see those that have passed on, and they get caught up in interdimensional battle. Um, we have, of course, some of those spirits out there that don't want us to succeed, so they're tempting us. And that's basically what this is. It's a battle between souls, for our souls. And so my main character, Mark Banks, he's a freshman at the University of Maryland. He had an experience where he saw his deceased grandfather after he died. His grandfather said, "You have this gift, don't blow it, use it to help others." He goes to the University of Maryland, basically enrolls in this spiritual and psychic phenomenon class, and then he gets pulled into an interdimensional battle. And it has to help shut this door before basically the evil influences come into our realm and tempt us beyond belief. So Glimpse has a little bit of romance in there. What's fun about being a writer is you can put a little of yourself in every character. So Mark has a little bit of me. His friend Jeremy has my sense of humor. The professor that sort of helps them in their journey has my love of history. I love American history, so a lot of this takes place in Philadelphia, Washington D.C. So it ties into a lot of historical stuff as well. So, but yeah, check out Glimpse. It's the first in what I hope to be a trilogy. He's just a freshman, so there's stuff to explore as a sophomore, as a junior, as he moves on, and basically hones his ability to meet these people that have passed on. So, any questions for me?
What's your main goal in writing a book? What do you want to accomplish?
That's a great question. When I started writing this was back in 2009, and I just basically wanted to show that we're all on this journey together as human beings, and I just want people to realize how close we are. I've had a chance to travel throughout Africa, throughout Europe, and talking to people from other religions and that. But it's really fascinating to see that we all have common interests, common goals in life. And that's really what I wanted to come out of this, is that you can read this and just build on that spirit of humanity. And so that's really what it is just to build on that spirit. So, yeah. But yeah, any other questions? Okay. Thank you, everybody.
You have a list again? Or? Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Carson Boss, the author of the book Glimpse.
Oh, yeah, and you can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and please check it out there, too, because that helps drive it up. Thank you. Good reminder.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, she was here with us earlier today, and it's a very inspiring story. You can see her outside. She has some materials also. She is the author of the book Disempower the Disappointment. Mr. McCorney was raised in New York, surrounded by the love of family. She has a podcast, as she is a podcaster, of the Palm Tree Podcast, where she journeys through setbacks and empowers the listeners with practical tips and advice on how to handle life's storms in a healthy way. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you once again the author of the book, Disempower the Disappointment, Mr. McCorney. A round of applause.
Thanks, James, for that introduction. Greatly appreciate it. I have three questions. Have you ever felt very disencouraged by a disappointment? Have you ever felt alone?
and wanted to know why me. This book gives encouragement to know you're not alone and that you can be encouraged through a life disappointment. And also, you can encourage someone as they go through a life disappointment so they don't feel alone. I will read an excerpt from the book. After going out and serving others, I came home to a realization I had nowhere to go. I had no one to talk to. I had no patience to converse with, laugh with, and occasionally hug. I woke up with nothing to do and nowhere to go. I was now in isolation. I went days and weeks without human interaction. The comforts and familiarity of the small things were now gone. I was constantly reminded that I was alone. I'm also a healer and encourager by the title of physician associate, but during this time, I was not able to heal or encourage myself. Through resilience, I was able to finally get through this life disappointment, which is in this book called Disempower the Disappointment. The title was from empowering yourself to get the power back from the disappointment versus have the disappointment take your power. You can find this book on Amazon, also on roadtoresilient.com, which is ROAD, the number two, ReaDSMagnet.com. Also, I have a podcast called the Palm Tree Podcast, which is on Thursdays at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm also on Instagram at Rosie Resilient and at the Palm Tree Podcast. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Once
Thank
again, Reserve
you.
Corny, Disempower the Disappointment. Our next author alike is going to be talking about a very inspiring book about her experience. She has had three professional careers: an accountant, a registered nurse preceptor, and senior clinical research associate. Irene currently resides in Illinois, USA, growing up in Lagos, Nigeria, and London, England. She's going to be talking about her book, Evolving Through the Process, Accepting Yourself 100% in a Perfectly Imperfect World. Once again, I give you Irene Ibaribon.
It's an honor to be here today, and I just want to say hats off to all authors. Writing a book is not a walk in the park. So, everyone, well done. We've done great. My book, Evolving Through the Process, is different from most books. It consists of 96 short stories, and every story is complete. Every story has a quote, and every story ends with an affirmation. It's about inspiring yourself to become your greatest version. So today I'm going to read a little bit of one of my stories, and it's story number 57. So it says, our only limitations are those we set up in our own minds. Napoleon Hill. What are some limitations? In basic terms, limitations are restrictions. So, how do we restrict and limit ourselves? I believe slowly shape our habits and our thoughts. And it's through our ideas, practices, and thoughts that we impose restrictions on ourselves. For example, one of my most significant limitations has been three words: I'm only human. On several occasions, I found myself saying this when I was looking for a way out. I argued, I won, and I got to keep my limitations. But using the excuse, I'm only human, made it easy for me to slack off. Whether with my exercise routine or my healthy eating habits, I rationalized my humanity with weakness. I did not realize that I was indirectly creating an image of myself as weak. I'm only human. I can't help myself. I can't do this. These phrases shape our daily habits. But as Mr. Hill said, We fix our own limitations through our thoughts. Today, I have rephrased I'm only human with I'm infinite. You may think, how can you say that? How can a human be infinite? As humans, we are all connected. We're extensions of each other. We are infinite. We are limitless. Information. I'm an infinite being having a human experience. So why did I write this book? I began writing this book in 2019 and I finished this book in February of this year. It's about evolving through different stages of my life and also people I interacted with, friends, family, co-workers through my life process. This book reminds us that we should not take life so seriously. We're only here for a limited time. But a lot of people spend so much time being concerned with other people's opinions about themselves. And rather than living your life, you end up thinking, what does this person think of me? What does that person think of me? And so we limit ourselves. But once we understand that, one, we're here to show love to each other, we're all connected. I don't care where you come from, your race, background, we are all connected. What I do, as we found out during COVID, what one person does affects the next person. And once we start thinking of life in those terms, the way we live our life, regardless of if we practice any religion or not, will totally change. Our seriousness to the world will also change. We'll understand that as humans, connected beings, we have to, one, be inclusive of other people, regardless of their background. One thing I say is that religion separates, but we shouldn't be separate. We're all united. We need to be inclusive. And living a life of inclusiveness will teach each person to appreciate the differences and the contrast we all bring together in this world. This is my first book for publication. My other two books I wrote in the last 3 years are books on vital signs that I give out to underprivileged communities in Nigeria, where I have a foundation, the Zanarina Foundation, and then another book for children in public schools focused on bullying and harassment, drug abuse, and just how to be a child. Those books we give out for free at the foundation, but this is my first book on Amazon. It is also on my website, ireneswords.com. And next month, May, it will also be on Audible. So I look forward to writing more books and inspiring more people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Irene and everyone. Do you guys have any questions for Irene?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next speaker, actually, I'm thankful that you visited us today. Pam is a registered nurse with more than 40 years of experience. As a poet, she has journaled her journey through life. She's an active Toastmaster. She speaks on a regular basis in her club, her community, and many more. Her book, Yoked with Christ, Poet's Heart, God's Gift. This poem was written by God through her life and trials. Having struggled with inadequacy and depression, her hope and her lifeline was Christ. To give us more clarity on the story, Yoked with Christ, let's hear it from the author herself, Pamela Casey Hora Aslesson. A round of applause.
I'm not sure if you understood the name. The name of the book is called Yoked, like a yoke that you would have between two beasts of burden. You are yoked with Christ. When you are going forward and you're carrying your burdens, you are not carrying them alone. He is in the other yoke, pulling them, carrying them with you. The name of my business is called Poet's Heart, God's Gift. Whenever I would try to journal or think about the things I was going through, I would try to journal, and I would always end up with a poem, or I would end up with a Bible verse. And as I realized these are my ways that God was giving me to work through things, I would have psychologists and pastors who would tell me, you know, many people go through these things, but God does not always give them the words to describe it, to share it with other people. And they suggested that I write it in a book, and I said, sure. No. And after many, many times, I started doing that. I'll let you know that the book itself is a single poem with 19 stanzas, and that in the back, each stanza has become a portion of a progressive devotional. And those pages then are meant to be a Bible study or to be worked through by a small group. There are 5 books in the series. The second one is called Little Child, and it's about losing a baby and infertility. And I work with Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep with those who have had to give that child a die. And that's very real for many, many families. And it doesn't matter whether your child was unborn, wished to be born, or was 30 years old, they're still your little child. We each have gone through what we've gone through because of God's plan for us. And sometimes we wish we could see today with eyes that were actually knowing what's going on in the future, don't we? We wish our eyes were seeing from the future why the trial today. But we have to trust and obey that He knows. He sees the finished tapestry of our lives. Right now, we're only seeing the bottom. We're seeing the knot. We're seeing the crossed over strings of that back of the tapestry. We've seen ourselves many times a tapestry in the front, and the tapestry is just like a carpet that was on the walls, if you think of them in England. And all those castles were so cold because they were out of stone. And so they'd make these carpets for the walls, and they'd make a scene on them. But if you turn them over, they were all knots and strings of different colors. When you turn them over, there were blacks and golds and reds and blues and beautiful. And who sees our finished tapestry? God. He sees that pain. He sees that hurt. He sees those joys. And he sees what they make you and what you become. So each of these things are pieces of that. One of my poems is about one of the women in the Bible. Does anybody remember Rahab? Remember the Joshua at the Battle of Jericho, and they went around and they went around and the walls came a-tumbling down? Well, when the spies went in, one of the things they did was snuck inside, and they had to escape or they'd been captured. And so they went to an inn and hid. Do you realize that the innkeeper's women, they were also their bed warmer at night? Uh-huh. Nobody talks about that. Well, she hid them. And she said, in exchange that I hide you, would you make sure my family gets out safe? And they said, if you put a red cord in your window when the walls tumble down, your family will be safe. And do you realize that not only was her family safe, that she became an ancestor of Jesus Christ? So the front of this poem is I, Rahab, and each of the little stanzas is about who she was. And it says, I, Rahab, I am your adopted child. The reality is, I was an innkeeper, sexual sport for my guests. Although a pagan, I realized the God of Israel was the real God. Helping the spies hide and escape is how I saved my family. A red cord was a signal in my wall-side window preventing destruction. Behold, a sinner God used
made a wife and mother, ancestor of Boaz. I am your adopted child, Rahab. Then you turn it over. Who you were. Who you were is not the point, it's who you are in God. He knows it all, intents and heart. He sees you as you are. When footsteps slow and turn to Him, He sees it from the start. Each thought, each prayer we send to Him marks progress in our hearts. Without the guiding hand of God, your choices might be mine, but though I don't understand it all, may He see, may you see His hand through mine. May I learn to trust and grow with you. May He change my human heart. Who you were is not the point. It's who you are in God. So each of my poems that are being made into books and devotionals have a theme about your growth, your peace, and who you become. Because only He can change you with your willingness and your acceptance. And so if you have a chance to look at yoke with Christ, it's not your pain, it's that He came down as the perfect God man. Yet He struggled each day. He sawed wood. He cut His hands. He smelled like sweat. He had wood chips on His feet. And yet He never sinned, and He pulls those burdens with you today. And I'd love it if you take a chance to look at it over there. And if you were interested, I'd love it if you'd come to the signing table, maybe get a book or consider. If you know someone who would love to have either a little child, and I give those out free to those who've lost little ones, or if you want to have. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. God
Thank you
bless.
so much, Pamela Atlason, author of the book Yoked with Christ. Our next speaker has won 12 patents, an award for a top invention in the world in 1996. Retirement plans include writing more short stories and poetry as a light whisperer and articles on soccer referee training. His book, Gunky's Adventures, is an anthology of light-hearted escapades with humor, mysteries, oddities, and surprise endings on family, friends, foes, and fails, each with a poem and a wondering hopeful. The reason, peace, and love will prevail. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the author of Gunky himself, Jim Luther. A round of applause.
Thank you all. And I want to repeat what the previous couple of speakers have said. I am blessed to be in here with all the rest of the fellow authors who I did not know until yesterday and now
You
know.
didn't know how long I was going to talk
This is
because
a
I didn't know
beautiful
how long you
community
told
right
me.
here on this planet as we
Is it
spin.
okay?
And I just want to amplify everything that's said. So I love all of you already. You're all my brothers and sisters. My book is Gunky's Adventures in the Land of Must Believe. When I first wrote that subtitle, I had will, you may believe, or you must believe. I changed it to it will, it will happen. You have to believe. The key word is believe. The motivation of the book was to essentially publish, the inspiration was to publish a afterlife love story that my late wife would write before she passed away of a cursed disease. Her profession was a hospice nurse, so she knew how this would work. But she wanted me to find it after she passed away. It was an afterlife love story in which she shared some very personal and poignant moments in our struggle together. We were in that fight together, and she's then passed away at the age of 57. And her last words were to me before she passed is she said, "I want to go home." And my words back were, "You are going home." In the letter, she gave me instructions on how to continue my life without her. In fact, the book was How to Get Along After I'm Gone. And as my heart was crushing reading these words, I looked at the line at the bottom of the book, and it said, "For a dummy." This is the humor that we shared for 37 years. This letter Afterlife Love Story is the first chapter in an anthology, an alphabetical list of short stories. The subtitle is Afterlife Love Story and Wish. And her wish was for me to write my stories. So the following 25 short stories are stories that I have written. And as was just spoken, they range from the humorous to the heartfelt to odd happenings. I've had some odd things happen to me in my life that no one and most of the world would experience because I am a PhD chemical physicist. It's about family, friends, foes. I am worked to detect, defuse, and demilitarize weapons of mass destruction for the last 40 years. That's why I have many artificial body parts in me. But that was my avocation. So I can tell you about fails. I can tell you about setbacks. But what I want to share with you is that whenever there's a setback, you must have a recovery plan. You get back in the game. You only have one life, as the last speaker said. You're only in this game one time. You gotta play it out. There's two questions that come to your mind right away: is who is Gunky? What is Gunky? Well, that was the childhood nickname that my mother gave me as a baby, and I'd like to introduce you to Gunky. If Gunky wants to appear, this is Gunky. That's me. And if you don't recognize me, that's fine. It didn't have a goatee at the time. It was just like me. So the rest of the stories are about, as I mentioned, different experiences that I had. Uh, each story begins with a short poem or an attempt at same. At the Ohioana Book Festival 3 years ago, I was a featured poet, much to my surprise. Now, some of the poems are a little bit sketchy. You won't understand what I'm talking about or where I'm going, and that's the point. Once you read the short story, you will realize. Uh, the the stories go on, and I will start you on a situation, a journey, an adventure. And I guarantee you that I will take you on that journey. You will not know or predict where you're going to wind up because there's a lot of odd happenings. Each story ends in a wondering. And I'm not asking for you to make it, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm going to say whatever you're doing, I want you to wonder why you're doing it and if there are options available. As was mentioned, I'm a former professional soccer referee. I always used to say if you make a decision in a game to decide the game, you always have options. So, what is the other option? And the option that I'm asking for is to think about the other side. And to do that, I have a tool. The second question is what is on the cover here? These are lucky stones. They are stones that have natural holes that you can see through. They're prominent. They've been written about. And this is my collection. I have over 300 in my collection. And these stones, the hole, if you look through it, you can see through it. It's a portal to the other world, your other world. So if you want to change, you look through this and you can decide what you want to do to improve and what you can see in terms of beauty and peace. So I will I'll be giving these away with the book. They're lucky stones, and they're fun. One of the hardest things that I wrote, after I read my Teresa's story, I wanted to write a letter back to her, even though she wouldn't be reading it. And I wrote a poem, and I'd like to recite it now. It's called "Why Candles Are Lit." Eternal is our curiosity of your spiritual luminosity. Trying to say that with each wisp of bright golden blaze, hope will flash through gloom's dark haze. Your beam makes it clear when despair is near and melancholy darkens your head. Watch and believe. Your mind will relieve with joy and illumination instead. I would like to leave you with these words. Uh, when I wrote this, I talked about flames and light. The back cover of my book is a picture that a friend took at a beam signing when we were allowed to sign an inscription on a beam that was going to go into a new hospice facility where Teresa worked. And we wrote our inspirational on it. It would be in the chapel, it would be behind the wall. And as the picture was taken, we saw this event. If you notice, there's a bright light. In her love letter, she said, I will be sending you a sign that you will see, and that will be me beaming my love to you. And as I said, I'm a molecular spectroscopist. I know how light is formed. This is her beaming her love to me, and I've seen this several times. And I'd like to leave you with the following words. Reason, peace, and love will prevail. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jim Wheeler.
I have two children, and if you wondered why I was looking around, I'm waiting the presence of Laura, my 40-year-old daughter who lives in LA. She's a medical lab tech, and she's been taking on extra shifts, so that's why she wasn't here yesterday. I told her, you'll see me again, but I think your patients will need you. I have a son who's a biochemist. He's the director of regulatory affairs for U.S. World Meds. He's in Louisville, Kentucky. So I have L.A. and Louisville, and they're beautiful children. They're my rock and soul. I have a 12-year-old grandson, Henrik. We call him the little guy. He's on the autism spectrum, and he's just a wonder to be around. So I'm truly blessed to be here. Just to let you know, my books are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and multiple sites. In fact, I was just sharing that it's been translated into Arabic and Asian. I don't know how they get donkey into those languages, but I'm truly blessed. It's available in hard copy, soft copy. The hard copy is over here. It's available on Kindle, and it's also available on audiobook. And I want to share something with you. When listened to the Audible, the narration made me cry, and I wrote the words. So I am truly blessed to be here. I love you all, brothers and sisters. We'll see you later. I'll be signing books at 3 o'clock.
Congratulations. He'll be doing his book signing at 3 o'clock. So everyone is invited to line up and get up a copy of Gunky's Adventures. Once again, Jim Ruther. Our next author is going to be doing her book signing as well later at 3 o'clock. She's going to be sharing with us a story about her book, In Beauty Rising from Brokenness. She shares her journey of how she was broken physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The chronic illnesses that ensued. In her darkest moments, she found a path to healing. In Beauty Rising from Brokenness, you will discover how to find hope for healing and freedom that once was lost. Let us know more about what inspired this author in writing The Beauty Rising from Brokenness. I give you the author herself, Dr. Elizabeth Lemon.
Thank you, James. And I want to say a big thank you to Readers Magnet. You guys have been amazing. I mean, I've worked with several companies, and Readers Magnet is far and beyond everybody I've worked with. So I just want to give them a shout out real quick. But my book, Beauty Rising from Brokenness, is my journey through childhood trauma, experiencing every kind of physical, mental, emotional, and sexual abuse as a child. And then in my 30s, I began to get very, very ill with bronchitis and asthma and also chronic fatigue syndrome. And I learned that when I was going through my program to get my doctorate in naturopathic medicine, that that childhood traumas will manifest in the body. Any kind of trauma can manifest in the body. And when it manifests to a certain area, that tells you what you are going through. And then when it's the airways, like it was for me, it was grief. I was grieving the childhood I lost. I was grieving the grandfather I lost before I could even remember him, and all the other things, my innocence, everything that was lost. And I had to go through that process. And that's what Beauty Rising from Brokenness is. It's a story of my journey through that illness and that trauma, but also a self help book that helps you to know how to heal physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually so that we are holistically healed. All of us are healed. We're like a four-legged stool. If one leg is shorter than the others, it's not going to sit up very well. Same thing for us. If we have one area that's healed or two areas that's healed, the stool still won't stand. You need to heal all four of those areas. So I have a book signing over here. I have books to sign and give to you. So stop at my table at 3 o'clock, and I'll be happy to sign you a book. The other thing that I want to share with you, and yesterday I talked more about Beauty Rising from Brokenness. Today I want to read from you the very end of this book and tell you about book 2 in the series that'll be coming out later this year. Shattered, rise from the pieces and rebuild your life. Be still and know that I am God. The words I kept hearing when I prayed, what do you want me to do now? I would like to say I waited patiently for answers, but I seldom wait patiently for anything. I had put in 38 years of moving with the military, always moving to get ahead of the pain, the anger, the inability to understand why things had happened the way that they did. Now, after all the struggle and turmoil I had gone through, but God wanted me to gain the skills that I needed. What? I protested. God, I don't understand, nor do I know how to be still. Just 3 years earlier in 2002, before my near nervous breakdown from Beauty Rising from Brokenness, God called me to speak and to share my story with women who are struggling in the midst of a difficult family or trauma situations. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but then the youth pastor's wife stopped me at church and told me, I thought about you in that conference and you'd be great at speaking like that. I picked my head up off the floor. I could not believe that what she was saying was the same thing that I had heard. She said, your experiences as a military spouse, a homeschooling mom, she didn't know about my past, would be amazing for you to tell. I replied, thank you, and more than a little stunned that maybe it wasn't my imagination. I left that day after church. We were moving to our next duty station. I had only just begun the journey from Beauty Rising from Brokenness. One night on the 5-day trip to our next duty station, I read my devotional. What I read was, see, I have made you a witness to the people, a ruler and commander of the people. Surely you will summons nations that know you not. The nations you do not know will come running to you because of the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel, for he has endowed you with splendor. That's from the book of Isaiah 55, verses 4 and 5. The devotional was about God's calling to spread his word, and I felt that God was speaking to me directly. I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit because I don't want to take up all the time, but, well, it's not that long. That devotional was God's calling for me to spread his word. It felt like God was speaking directly to me, affirming what I had heard at the conference from our youth pastor's wife. And now it was right in front of me in scripture. God was calling me into ministry. How exciting. Little did I know what lay ahead. However, I had a calling and something to work towards. A goal. I love goals and lists and laying out orderly steps to take to accomplish something. Boy, how naive was I. First came the long, hard journey from brokenness. 3 years of anger, rage, brokenheartedness, and then, just as I was regaining my life, getting on my feet, ready to run again towards this calling, came shattered. I was feeling much better, my health stabilized, my energy levels up, and coming back to myself. In a couple of weeks, we were going on a family reunion with my husband's family, and I was feeling invincible. The children and I missed home in Louisiana. Michigan was not a friendly place always. So much so that we decided to leave a week and a half early and go home for a visit.
we I would take the two younger children and drive to Michigan, to Louisiana, drive from Michigan to Louisiana, visit our friends and my husband's family, then drive back and meet my husband and our oldest daughter in Kentucky for the camping family reunion. We met them along with my in-laws who were working on churches in northern Michigan that summer. My sister-in-laws and their families for 3 days of camping, swimming, boating, and fun. We had a great time and enjoyed each other's company. Friday finally came. It was the time for everyone to head their separate ways. After all the goodbyes, we struck out for our next destination. My in-laws about an hour ahead of us, headed back to Michigan to work on the church. We were part of they were part of the missionary team that traveled in their RVs and repaired and built churches. We headed out, ready to go home and back to normal life. I was thrilled to not have to drive anymore. I was quite tired of driving, so I kicked back in the front seat of the Suburban to read. My husband driving, pulling a fully loaded camper, and our 16 and 18-year-old daughters driving the truck following us. It was a nice day, hot for July in Michigan, but good to be headed home. A couple hours into the drive, we suddenly had a blowout on the camper. We pulled over, changed the tire, and got back on the road. My husband knew all the tires on the camper were about the same age. There was a good chance we could have another blowout. There was a good, so he drove in the far right lane just in case we needed to pull off the highway again. About 6 miles before we crossed the Michigan border, we began to see all too familiar signs, warnings of road construction ahead. If you know anything about Michigan, there are two seasons, winter and construction. And we were deep in July in the middle of construction season. The signs instructed the semi-trucks to drive in the left-hand lane. In the construction area, the lanes shifted to the shoulders of the road and the right lane. However, the semi-truck in front of us never obeyed the signs for some reason. He continued to drive in the right lane, which was the shoulder of the road. My phone rang. It was my mother-in-law wanting to know how close we were to home. They had stopped at a campground on the military base for the night and were waiting for us to get to dinner. I told her we would be home in about 45 minutes. We would love to go to dinner. Our 11-year-old son, sitting in the back seat of the Suburban, watching movies, asked, "Where does Grandma want to go for dinner?" I turned around to answer. As I answered, I saw out of the corner of my eye something that didn't quite register in my brain. My husband stomping on the brake with both his feet as hard as he could. My mind, dazed and confused, thought, "You can't stop the camper like that." After 8 years of pulling this camper all over the United States, moving from military base to military base, I knew you couldn't stop like that. I managed to turn my head just enough to see the front of our Suburban make an impact with the bumper of that semi truck in front of us. Then just the sound of crashing metal, the smell of smoke, the blood-curdling screams from my son. I was so disoriented, I couldn't figure out how to unbuckle my seatbelt, how to get the door open, how to get to my son. My mind raced. What had just happened? I couldn't put all the pieces together. Where were we? What was going on? Then I heard my phone ringing. I need to answer that, but I don't know where it is. I can't find it. My brain nor my body could make any sense of what had just happened. That's where beauty rising from brokenness ends. And that's where warrior rising from ashes begins. It's my story of being bedridden and disabled for 12 years after that auto accident. And everybody that reads this book, I get the response, "I can't believe you did that to us." And I said, "Isn't that what all the great authors do? That's what they do to me when I read a book. They leave you hanging." And then the next question I get, "Is your son okay?" So, Warrior Rising from Ashes will be out later this year. You can go to my website, theclammangroup.com or elizabethclamman.com. You can find me anywhere on social media, send me emails, anything if you can remember. Elizabeth Clam on, Clamon. You can find me anywhere. And now I work with women. I get the pure pleasure of working with women to tell their story, to leave the legacy of their story for the next generation coming behind them. And I get to travel all over the world and share my story and share my business and how that I help women leave their enduring legacy in words, in dance, in what speaking, however they want to tell their story. Yes.
If you put in one word, beauty rising, what would that mean? What would be that one word that you would choose?
Beauty rising. I've never been asked that question before. One word for beauty rising. Freedom. Freedom. Because it's freedom from all that trauma and that junk. It's the beauty in the rising. It's like beauty for ashes. Anybody else? Questions? Yes, I have a book signing at 3 o'clock. I'll be giving books away at the table right here behind us. And please stop by, get a book, get my card, and reach out to me. And I would love to talk to you and meet you.
Beauty
Any other
Rising
questions?
from Brokenness. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Elizabeth Clayman.
Oh, okay.
Our next speaker, after losing 140 pounds, earned his MBA, owned his first house at the age of 25, and achieved a plethora of other goals. Derek shares some of the major aspects of his life in Limitless as a guide to help you on your life's journey. Reading this book will help you unleash your full potential by inspiring you to set some goals and standards that will help you achieve your own limitless growth, even in the midst of tough circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from Derek Grissom. A round of applause.
Thank you, thank you. And I want to also give a shout out to Reader's Magnet. This is top notch. I must say that as a new self-published author, not knowing what in the world I was doing when I started this journey, I'm appreciative of you all taking the time and helping market and guide us as we move through. So Limitless is a autobiography of my life, and I used to be 350 pounds, believe it or not, 350 pounds, and I've lost 100. Thank you. I've lost 150 pounds. If you look at the book, this is the old me. And as I stated yesterday, he's gone forever. This is the new me. And part of why I wrote the book is because I started having really bad health issues with my back, my knees, etc. And at 41 at the time, I really thought that I would not make it to age 45. So it was up to me to make a decision to have a better, healthier life, and you'll learn about that. But it's not just about weight loss. Limitless is about not setting limitations or have goals in life. Every one of us have strides that we're trying to make. And if you take away that limited mindset, Limitless will help you do that by motivating you and using my life as an example. We also heard that I went from GED to MBA. Yes, I was a high school dropout. When I was 17 years old, I told my mom, unless you want me to be in here under 22, what are we going to do about it? And she helped me out and helped me resign from school. 6 months later, got my GED, and then I realized I needed more in order to be successful in this world. So that's why I went back and went to spend my 20s through school. But the whole purpose of this book is to and motivate you and inspire you to be the best version of yourself, regardless of what it is you're going through. And one other thing I'll say is when you start saying limitless to yourself and affirming who you are to yourself, limitless opportunities will open. And that's what's been happening ever since I went ahead and wrote this book. So encourage you to get the book. You can go to my website at mylimitlessgrowth.com, or you can see me afterwards, and I have some postcards for you. Thank you, and thank you again for Reader's Magnet.
Derek Grissom, everyone. Thanks, sir. Our next speaker, she has a very thriving personality and retired from the catering business into surviving 5 deadly illnesses back to back since 2014. Through his loving husband of 38 years, supporting their 2 college girls, she knew that she couldn't give up on sickness. She fought even harder to never give up. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the author of Battle Scars. My life is worth fighting for. I am a warrior. Diona Maria Joyner Wheeler.
Yes, good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'm Deanna Wheeler,
And I'm so excited to be here. And again, we continue to all be here for a purpose, to be able to get back people back to reading. But my main purpose right now is to really share with you about how I survived 5 deadly illnesses. I had breast cancer, I had sepsis. Sepsis is a blood infection that goes throughout your body, and many people have not survived that. I also had a stroke. I had heart failure, and I'm currently in kidney failure right now. But look at me. Hey. And my husband of 38 years is going to give me a kidney in June. Isn't that exciting? He is truly my soulmate, so I just thank him for that. But during this entire time since 2014, I didn't know what I was going to end up with. Because I know God just really shared with me, well, you're ready to go to the next level in your ministry. And I was. So sometimes we have to pay the price. And that's what I felt I had to do. I had to pay the price in order to stand before you today. So, battle scars, my life is worth fighting for, is just sharing with you that the battle scars are left on my body, literally. And it's also a testimony to the fact that I survived. And one thing that's been key to my whole development or to this whole entire process is that you can win. You can be a warrior if you want to live. It starts mentally. Mentally, you got to say, I really want to live and I'm going to survive this. And that's how I got through it. 90% is your brain just mentally thinking about living. So today, I just want to be able to empower women to fulfill your destiny, but know that sometimes you have to release all the pain and the sorrow in your life in order to even be more productive in your life. Release all those things that may have burdened you. So I'm just so excited to be here. And I just want you to know that my book can be found on Amazon. And I also now have a blog. It's called Fight for You Campaign. I want you to encourage you to fight for your life. Yes, God is the author and finisher of our faith. Yes, He would never leave us nor forsake us. But also, we got to be willing to fight for ourselves. Be an advocate for yourself. And not only be an advocate, but be compliant. I literally was compliant through every stage of my journey in illness. I listened to the doctors, did what I could personally to help myself, eating the right things and doing the right things. But you got to be an advocate for yourself. So, what I really want to leave you today is knowing that you can't overcome if you fight for yourself. And I also have another book that's already out on Amazon, and it's called Overcoming Your Journey. And it's a journal so you can have and write down your fears, write down the things that you've dealt with, so you can overcome it as well. So thank you, Readers Magnet, once again for having us here. We're delighted to be here, and I'm just so excited for this platform. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Where can we find you, Diona?
I do have a website. It's called fightforyoucampaign.com. That's fight I no, excuse me, FIGHT, fight the number 4, the letter U, campaign.com. Fightforyoucampaign.com. And I have a blog, and on the blog it shares stories, shows pictures, and just does a lot of little things, daily messages, morning messages for you. So I'm excited if you follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, Deanna Wheeler, and you'll be seeing me really soon. I'll be on Open Super Soul Sunday one day. Mark my word. All right. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Battle scars. My life is worth fighting for, everyone. Diona Weaver. Thank you. Our next speaker is the author of Freedom Lost. Was raised in a military family, and his father was career Army, so Mark traveled quite a bit from Georgia to Chicago and much of Western Europe. His book, Freedom Lost, having won the U.S. presidency in a three-party run, Lawrence Lording has suspended the constitutional and eliminated Congress. The United States has become a dictatorship. When a group of Southern Arizonans takes a stand against him at Kasha's stronghold in Dragoon Mountains, Lording retaliates with a tactical nuclear weapon. Only one man survives the attack, Mason William, also known as Chris Wallace. To tell us more about his book, Freedom Lost, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Handy.
Thank you. And I want to express the same sentiments. Thank you to Reader's Magnet. It's the first time I've been associated with anything like this, and I'm very impressed with everything you folks are doing. The book has been a long time in coming. It's been inspired by a lot of events, um, but it's speculative. It's about what happens, as the synopsis says, if a president gets into office and he's able to use FEMA, Federal Emergency Maintenance Act, to impose martial law, which they can do. Not many people know that. When I found it out, it scared me, and that was the motivation to this book. What happens if somebody gets in there and misuses this power, creates martial law? What can they do? Well, after research, I found they can do a lot. Suspend the Constitution, basically turn it into a dictatorship. The book is about how people would react. Uh, don't choose political sides in the book. You can put anybody into the White House that you want, as far as I'm concerned. Either party is capable of doing this. The book is about how people would react if somebody did this. And just to set the tone, read you the start of the book. Blood pounding in his temples, Mace Wallace tried not to look at the police car as it passed. Despite the fear of the hunted crawling down his back, he forced a slight smile to his face. The cruiser continued without any signs that he had been recognized, signs which would have been unmistakable to be sure. People wanted by the federal government always caused a stir when they were found out. Looking around but not focusing on anything, but at the same time seeing everything, Mace walked with a casual stride to the L station where he would make his rendezvous. A bump and a bustle on the local 415, and he would have the info for the next resistance meeting. He leaned against the wall, opened his newspaper, and waiting for the train, the crowd, and that one special passenger. Over the top of the paper, Mace scanned the people, paused in their journeys to or from someplace else in Chicago. All eyes were furtive, glancing, not lingering or making direct contact. Even the few who traveled with friends talked in hushed voices and ignored all others. Fear seemed to grip each person, fear of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, just seeming to be wrong. Suddenly, he felt obvious in his observations, and he raised his newspaper, pretending to read it. When did this happen? How did this happen? Why was America now a country afraid of itself? The story picks up in Chicago. He hooks up with resistance in a flashback sort of storytelling. He tells of the resistance in Cochise County. Familiar with southern Arizona, Cochise Stronghold, so where the resistance took place. I'm from southern Arizona, so a lot of the book revolves around that part of the country. And it just goes through the process of him finding the resistance, because there's always other people who are going to protest this type of abuse of power. It's just a question of everybody getting together and making some noise. So that's what Freedom Lost is about. It's first of two books. The second one picks up where this one leaves off, and it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. It's on audiobooks, ebooks, and hope you enjoy it. I have a website, azshadowrider.com, and it's got my email on there. Drop me a line. I do reply to emails. That's it. Thank you very much. Yes. My purpose in writing this book is to get people to appreciate this type of stuff right now that you're doing, the freedom to gather, to express ideas without any type of persecution from the government.
Thank you so much. Freedom Lost by Mark Henry. Our next speaker is the son of James D. Hawk, who was the second son of Roy and Mabel Thornton Hawk of Cleveland, Tennessee. As a Navy brat, James grew up near saltwater ports, including Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, San Francisco, and Seattle. In the bicentennial year, Captain Hawk got his orders to head to Naples, Italy. Before returning to Washington State, with a retired Captain Hawk in 1980, James spent his first year of college in Munich, Germany, and one more summer in southern Italy. Ladies and gentlemen, to talk to us about his book, My Dear Mabel, James Hawk.
Thank you, James, and thank you to Readers Magnet as well. It's a delight to be here. James M. Hawk, all the way from not so sunny Seattle. We've had rains for a week, so it's delightful to be down here in the sunshine. To introduce my book here, which is available, and unlike many of the previous speakers, no marketing, no website, just got one disillusioned attorney who decided to start writing books. And so here I am from Seattle with the help from Reader's Magnet. I'll learn a lot more about marketing and then be able to sell additional books in the future. The title, My Dear Mabel, is what my grandfather, in not 9 or 10, not dozens, but hundreds of letters, how he addressed my grandmother in letters before, during, and after World War I. So he was in the muddy trenches, 6th Infantry Division, from Cleveland, Tennessee, and my grandmother, against the wishes of her parents, was a war worker in Washington, D.C. She took the train up, and she stayed 4 or 5 years. She was there to bring about the 19th Amendment. She stayed a long time after armistice, and women received the right to vote. Washington, D.C. flourished. Her workplace was right on the cover here, the Executive Building. She would witness the President of the United States, President Wilson, move about with his dog. My grandfather waited in Europe for President Wilson to show up and help work out the terms after World War I, Treaty of Versailles, etc., etc. But these are bona fide letters, and provably so. They're all in a museum in Knoxville, Tennessee. I found the letters when my father died in 2018, perfectly preserved, and hundreds of them. And so this book only takes you through the end of the war and Roy's successful return home. And then until 1921, and Mabel came down to Knoxville and they got married. My father, the youngest of 2 sons, I'm one of 4 boys. So the letter writing stopped because they were sleeping together. This book does chronicle a lot of World War I history, and it's just fascinating, as my 3 teenage sons have told me numerous times, nobody writes letters anymore. Of course, that's not true. Some do, and many more of us should. If you want to learn or see the art and skill of great letter writing from a different era, that might be another reason to pick up My Dear Mabel. My grandfather, just a private in the United States Army, was 25. He wrote a little bit like Faulkner. Sometimes he wrote like Shakespeare. He was a poet. A lot of scripture is quoted here. They went back and forth. Billy Sunday is a speaker they would see from time to time. Mabel, of course, in Washington, D.C. She was there to visit with William Jennings Bryan and the other illustrious folks of the day. When the war ended in Washington, D.C., she sat in the windowsill and watched the parade right underneath her building. And I'll just read a quick portion of that. This is a letter from my grandmother. Washington gave one grand celebration for the close of the war Monday night. I don't think Pennsylvania Avenue can relate such a scene in its history again. I am not exaggerating when I say every foot of space was occupied with machines, streetcars, and people. And I think the atmosphere was filled all the way to heaven with praises, horns, and whistles. November 13, 1918. So both of these people wrote eloquently and beautifully. They fell in love, and it's one of those, the rest is history. But pick it up and take a look. I introduce all the letters with chapters. So while they are responsible for their own character development, fair to say, I had to write something clever or that would bring the letters together. Chapters like Winning Affection in Eastern Tennessee, Courting in Cursive, Private Roy Hawk, U.S. Army, Mabel's Soldier Over There. That gives you a nice flavor. If anyone is interested too in Walter Reed, my grandma would visit the wounded soldiers at Walter Reed Medical after they came home from World War I. This here is a tribute written by a pastor, minister of First Congressional Church, Washington, D.C. Church is still there, but he writes beautifully about what it means that the war is over. Finally, The book is not here, but this is the second book, and a lot of Roy's advice in those letters, as well as my father's advice to sons, a legacy of wisdom and loving letters from two generations of sons of East Tennessee. So, folks, write letters. Can't hurt. In fact, it'll help. Your family will know where you have been, and your family will know how much you love them. Write the letters. Pick up My Dear Mabel and watch some letters from 100 years ago and read some pieces of history. Thank you, Reader's Magnet. Have a great day, everyone. Enjoy the sun.
Thank you so much, James Hawk, My Dear Mabel. Our next speaker is a founding senior pastor of Murrieta, California's Passion Life Church, a thriving and active congregation. Phil is a Dallas, Texas-based Christ for the Nations Institute graduate. He has spent over 25 years serving as a pastor and helping people. His book, The Power of Thank You. You will learn the divine connection between God's grace, gratitude, and joy. The truth is, you can find joy again. To tell us more about it, let's hear it from the author himself, Phil Valdez.
Hey, thanks everybody. Thanks for being here. So glad that you're tuning in. Thanks to everybody here at the LA Times Festival of Books. I want to say a special thanks to Mr. James Dodd. He's right there behind the camera. Can we give him a good round of applause? And a big, huge thank you to Reader's Magnet. And I just want to say a real quick special shout out to Mr. Charlie Hop, who calls me every single day. And he is checking up to make sure that everything is going good. Thank you, guys. I wrote this book. It's called The Power of Thank You, The Key to Finding Joy Again. And I think that everybody would like some more joy in their life. They actually did a study that said that the number one pursuit of people's lives is happiness. And so all of us in life can have ups and we can have downs. So this book was actually born out of a time that I had a little bit of a downtime in my life. We had moved from El Paso, Texas, to the great city of Marietta, where I pastor, and we just literally pioneered a church. We started from scratch. It was just me. My wife is here. My son is here, and we had our first two members right there. And so what we did was we just began to pioneer. And as you know, as a church, we function basically on donations of people. So after our first year, we looked at our donations and we're like, you know what? We've got a lot more bills than we do donations. I don't know if you've ever been there in your life where you had too much bills and you not enough coming in. And I really got really upset and kind of down. And I just started to think about all the things that weren't happening in my life. And I felt like that for a moment until I felt like the Lord, what he did is he said, hey, Phil, why don't you be thankful for what has already come in? And I thought, well, that's interesting. And one of the reasons why I was unhappy was because I was looking at what I didn't have. Gratitude is a perspective. You know, walking around here at the LA Times Book Festival, I would say about 70 to 80% of people have glasses on, either sunglasses on. Mr. James Dodd right there has his GQ glasses on. Why do we wear glasses? Today we're wearing glasses so we can have the right perspective even in the sun. Some of us are wearing so we can have the right focus putting on the glasses. To be honest with you, that's really what gratitude is. Gratitude is a perspective. You can either look at what you don't have and be depressed, or you can begin to be grateful for all the things that you do have. This is how you actually access joy. Right? If I were to ask each and every one of you today to just give me 5 things that you are grateful for, 5 blessings in your entire life that have happened. Come on, give me one. One blessing. Your children. One thing that you're happy for, sir.
Finding my grandparents' story.
Finding your grandparents' story. One thing you're happy for, grateful for in your life. Breath. Amazing. Anybody else? One thing that you're happy, grateful for. Oh, my wife says me. Listen, that was not planned. I promise. Your husband. But you know what's interesting is that a lot of us, as we say certain things, there's many blessings. How many of us today got up and just said, I'm thankful for today, that I'm alive today? You said that, right? And the reality of it is that's the perspective. See, what happens is that when you begin to look at your life through the perspective of gratitude, here's what you see. You begin to see God's grace in your life. See, a lot of people use the word grace especially during Thanksgiving, right? They'll say this word, who's going to give or say grace? Or some people will say, who's going to say thank you, right? And so those words we use interchangeably. And in my study on gratitude, that's what I actually found. I actually found that in the New Testament, the word gratitude or thanksgiving in the Greek language, which the New Testament was translated in, is the word Eucharisto. Would you say that with me? Say Eucharisto. But the word grace is the word charis. We actually named some of our daughters charis. We named them grace. But in the Greek language, did you know that grace and thanksgiving are interchangeable? In actuality, the word grace is the foundation for the word thanksgiving. So if I were to ask you, hey, what are you grateful for? When you start to name those things, here's what you're doing. You can actually follow God's grace in your life by asking yourself, what are you grateful for? See, there's a lot of things that I'm grateful for. And when I look at that, I realize, I say, hey, you know what? That was God's grace in my life. But here's what happens. Some of us are waiting for the big moment. We're waiting for the big flash. We're waiting for the big things to happen in our life before we say, oh, I'm so grateful for that. But let's be honest, it's not the big thing, right? It's actually a lot of little things that have happened in your life. And if you're grateful for the little things, then you'll see God is actually working in your life. I can say, I look at my wife over here, I'm thankful that she said yes to me. I'm thankful for my kids. I'm thankful that I actually woke up this morning. I'm thankful that I didn't wake up today in a hospital. I'm thankful that I didn't wake up today in prison. Come on, somebody. But I am awake. So in my book, just to come to a close, The Power of Thank You, the key to finding joy again. Here's what I found. Grateful people are always joyful people. Ungrateful people are not joyful people because they're always looking at what they're lacking, and yet there's so much that has already been done in your life, which is a precursor to your future. And I'll end with this. I was looking at the donations of our church as I started out, and I began to realize we don't have enough donations to pay the bills. And I felt like God spoke to me. He says, why don't you be thankful for every penny that people gave you? And that reminded me of a parable in the Bible where Jesus wanted to feed 5,000 people. And he didn't have any food, but there was a little boy that gave him 5 loaves and 2 fishes. They put it in Jesus' hands, and watch what Jesus did. He said these words. He stopped and he prayed, and he said, God, I thank you. Hold on. For 5 loaves and 2 fishes, you're trying to feed 5,000 people, not including men and women, 15,000 people, and all you have in your hand is 5 loaves and 2 fishes. And I thought, why is Jesus saying thank you? It does not meet the need. But here's the reality. Grace and thanksgiving are intertwined in the Greek language. So what Jesus didn't have before with his empty hands, now that somebody put 5 loaves and 2 fishes in his hands, he saw it as grace. And he said, I'm grateful for the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. And if you know what happened, after he prayed, he broke it, and they began to distribute the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes. And the Bible says that all of them ate. Not only did they ate till they were satisfied, and there was 12 baskets left over. Why? Here's the principle. Jesus said grace before the miracles. He said thank you before the miracles, not just after the miracles. I won't want to be a person that just says thank you when everything's done. I want to say thank you even when I see the little things in life. Somebody opened the door for me at the shopping mall. I find $5 somewhere and nobody will reclaim it. You know what? That is all the grace of God working in your life. And there is joy. I want to tell you today, there's joy in your life, but here's how you access it. You access it by being grateful. I'll end with this. It's interesting, in the Greek language of the New Testament, chara is the word for grace. Charis is the word for grace. Eucharisto is the word for thanksgiving. But the word joy is chara. See, here's the reality. Every day, if you'll stop and say thank you, you're recognizing the grace of God, which always turns into joy. And so today, I'm thankful for this book, and I hope that it will help you find joy again. There's a couple of different chapters, but one of the ones that people find really interesting, and I'll end with this, is there's a whole chapter on grief and gratitude. Because most people in their grief forget about being grateful. And so we interviewed a psychotherapist. We also interviewed a doctor in grief counseling, and they talk about the importance in loss. Again, you're looking at what is lost. It causes you to be depressed. But when you go back and you start to think about moments of being grateful with the people that you lost, it actually changes your perspective. And so you can get this at powerofthankyoubook.com. And today, for those of you that are at the Los Angeles Festival Book, we have a couple here. I'd love to sign it for you. They're only $24.99. And so I'm grateful for your attention today. Grateful for all of you that are here. God bless you. And any way that I can help you, I'd love to help you. Thank you. God bless you.
Bill Valtez, everyone. We've had several offers, waiting for the others. We're still live until 5 in the afternoon. ReadersMagnet is live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thank you so much to all the speakers that we've had since yesterday. Again, ReadersMagnet is still live until 5.
I'll leave you with one more book if I can. I also want to show you where I've spoken with some of your personnel, and they're located in the Philippines.
Yeah, exactly.
Did
great. Amazing.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Same here.
I just throw this. No Boracay. Were you born in the Philippines or here?
I was born in the Philippines.
Yeah, so I've been to the Philippines many times. I was one of the first Americans in Boracay. This is many years later.
Oh my God.
When there was no electricity. No, 1985. 40 years ago. And then you recognize Carton Sin. Mahal kita very much. Bubugin kita. Just a little bit, please.
Thank you so much.
Staying out of trouble. Yeah. And please give that book to